What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for rocking with me all this time. Thank you for hitting up my Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. That is the single best way to help me continue to do what I'm doing here. You can also use the discount code ZF23 to get, I think it's 41.7% off. I tried to like make an even number, but then you can also use it on a half-hour reading or this kind of thing as well. So go to my website, zambonifunk.com. You can book a reading there with that discount code, and it's a huge discount, and that would help me a lot as well. You can check, if you're already at zambonifunk.com, maybe you can check the music out. Maybe you can find that on Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, wherever you like to find your music. The song's called Can't Help Myself. There's another song called Breathe. I'm very proud of them. If you would go there on YouTube, there's a breathe exercise with an animation to go with it. If you would leave some feedback and like let me know how it actually treats you, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week it's not a super happening week, which I'm into. We had a very busy week last week with the full moon, lunar eclipse in Scorpio and all that, right? That was a big deal. And we still are things are still looking kind of nosy right now. You know, we've still got big stuff going on with the North Node in Taurus especially, but really the star player this week is going to be Venus. Venus is moving into Cancer as we speak. Probably right now Venus is moving into Cancer. Venus likes being in Cancer. This is a lovely position for Venus. You know, Venus and the moon get along. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Venus and the moon are homies. Like the moon in Taurus does really well. The moon is exalted in that position. Venus is not technically exalted, technically doesn't have like a lot of great dignity in Cancer, but I really like it a lot. I think it's a very soft and kind of beautiful placement. It's really good for finding the sweetness in things. And, you know, I feel like that is well in demand these days. We had a Pluto station last week that I forgot to talk about. You know, with Pluto stationing retrograde, that was our first Pluto station in Aquarius, really looking at like future dynamics and how the future feels, and some of the kind of existential dread that can be found in the like big F future. So, you know, and Pluto, that's what Pluto does, is existential dread, right? It's not that the future only contains existential dread, but Pluto will really bring that sort of stuff out. And so that, along with a Mercury retrograde, along with the eclipse, along with whatever else has been going on in your own life, has been like kind of a lot for a lot of people. And so Venus moving into Cancer, this is a really lovely, loving, nurturing, sweet kind of dynamic. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, this Venus is going to move into Cancer and is immediately going to move into this trine with Saturn, right? So we've got Saturn in Pisces trine to Venus in Cancer. Now, that could be like a little waterlogged or something like this. That might get a little like sodden and wet, and I don't know, like there can be a heaviness to that, right? But if I were gonna do something useful with that, then I would probably go into the land of dreams or imaginal and do something artistic. This looks really good for, I always talk about song and poetry and this kind of stuff whenever we're looking at especially Pisces dynamics. You know, Venus in a water sign is really good for feeling the feelings and then making that beautiful some kind of way. You know, this Venus is also going to be there with Mars in Cancer. So Mars is currently in Cancer and has been for a few weeks here. Mars is just doing Mars things at this point, right? Mars isn't like really as treacherous as some of the Mars that we've seen in the past. And so Mars in Cancer is like kind of fine. It's kind of whatever. It's like this Mars is not, you know, it's kind of grumpy or whatever, but like not really causing too many problems as far as I can tell. Venus, I think, is going to just bring in some love and joy to that situation and make some things feel nice here. Now, what's especially interesting about this is that we've got Mercury still deeply retrograde. So, you know, save everything in 2 or 3 places and watch out, especially this Mercury retrograde in Taurus, I felt like has been, you know, if Taurus is like physical and tangible things, you know, it's the fixed earth sign, then like this one has been all about hardware and equipment failure. Like the other day I had the tire pressure light come on in my car, and so I was like, all right, let me check it out. Went to the pump where I could get some air and went to unscrew the valve and the whole valve stem came off in my hand. And then immediately I had a flat tire. It's been a bunch of that sort of stuff. I've been through 2 microphones. Other people have been talking about going through microphones and this kind of thing. You know, like computer problems and like, again, hardware issue, not software issues. I haven't heard too much about like, you know, like this thing getting sent to the wrong place or something like that, or like these kinds of things, like crossed wires. It's been more about like, oh, the disc doesn't work anymore. Something broke on it or something like this, right? So that has been going on and looks like it wants to continue to go on this week. But one thing that we've got going on here with this Mercury is that it's going to move back to about 5 degrees of Taurus. We're getting very close to the end of this Mercury retrograde. And so as it moves back, then it's going to make a sextile to Saturn, and it's going to make a sextile to this Venus in Cancer as well. And so with this kind of, you know, these are trine and sextile dynamics, right? So we're looking at beneficial, helpful, supportive, complementary kind of vibes here. Mercury retrograde, also there with Saturn, also there with Venus. This doesn't look like things are happening in a snappy kind of way. It doesn't look like stuff is like getting finished in any kind of hurry, right? But and that can be a problem when you get into the artistic space, right? Sometimes you like get in there and it's just like never finished, and there's always something else to do, and oh, like I don't even like it anymore, and this kind of thing, right? That's total possibility. But I feel like if Mercury is retrograde and we are having trouble putting into words the feelings that have been coming up, right? And this kind of thing. Also, Mercury there at the very beginning of Taurus is going to be making this square to Pluto and Aquarius, right? So maybe feeling some of that fear or whatever that is, right? And then getting into and not being able to express it in some kind of like intelligible way, right? But then that is in a sextile in a complementary aspect with Saturn and Venus, who are supporting each other. Then that looks really good for getting into some kind of metaphor or symbolism and being it, you know, this gets into what I sometimes talk about, which is that like words often fail, but symbols and metaphor are often like they're more true than a prosaic statement of fact, right? I feel like a statement of fact is often limited to the one thing, whereas if you can get into archetype and metaphor and this kind of thing, then there's like the deep trueness that exists there and that can be expressed in manifold ways, right? And that kind of thing looks like it wants to really be happening this week. So it's a good time to do whatever your arts practice is. You know, if we can especially get into the idea that like most of your ideas are trash. Most ideas suck. That's just like a solid, 98% of ideas are terrible ideas, right? But you get through them, and in dealing with those bad ideas, then some good ideas come out, and maybe you can like get rid of some, maybe you can get rid of 98% of an idea and keep a little 2%, and then put that up with a next 2% of another idea, and then suddenly before you know it, you've got a whole good thing going on here. And so this looks like a really good time for that kind of synthesis that can happen in the water. We can think about the water as being kind of chaotic and primordial in some kind of way, right? The first life that we can really think of as being life, just sort of depending on what you think of as life and this kind of thing, right? Don't worry about all that. But like much of the life that we think of in, you know, green things and fish and animals and this kind of thing, it starts in the water. And so there's this sense of being able to take all of the different nutrients and stuff and energy that's around, right? And kind of congeal that into something that is special some way. And so I feel like there's a really good opportunity to do that this week. I would not think about this week as a time to like finish projects and get things done in an intelligible and concrete kind of way. But if you're, especially Mercury in the very beginning of Taurus, if you're like planning things and thinking about how to move forward in life, then this is probably a really good time to take a nap, rest more than you think you need to, and maybe in that dream space, you can get some good ideas. I'm out of time here. Thank you so much for being here with me. Check out the podcast. I think I got one of those coming out tomorrow. Bye.